see, I've written the Encyclopedia of Islamic History. Many people think of Mecca as a Bedouin city.
Yes.
They were never Bedouin.
But this has been told by mashayikh,
Yes,
ulama.
but they don't know. From China, major trade was silk. From India, the major trade was peppers. But what was the major trade in Arabia and around Arabia? It was slaves.
Slaves. From Habashi slaves.
Al-Habashi.
Today's esteemed guest, I am truly honored to have him on. He has so many accolades, but I will just highlight a few. He is an expert in political science, Islamic movements of the Muslim majority world. He has authored more than 120 books, including his most recent publication, the Encyclopedia of the Seerah. He has also been included as one of the most influential Muslims, top 500, 3 years consecutively, 2022, 2023 and 2024. And that's none other than Dr. Tareq Al-Suwaidan. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. It's an honor and pleasure to be with you, Dali, and your esteemed audience. And I hope for you, about 5 pillars, more success, doing outstanding work, inshallah, in the world.
Jazakallah khairan, Doctor. How's things? How are you finding Malaysia, the summit that we're currently at? How are you finding it?
Malaysia, I haven't seen anything. They kept me inside the summit.
Same.
And as for the summit, I attended last year's summit also, and alhamdulillah this year. Besides my participation, they have assigned for me one-to-one meetings with most of the delegates. And to tell you, I attended hundreds of conventions, seminars, if not thousands. This is the best audience that I have ever seen.
Allahu Akbar.
Yeah,
Allahu Akbar.
very high caliber, very high quality. And last year also were very high, but this year is even higher.
Alhamdulillah.
So alhamdulillah, the things are much better. Also, the quality of the program is also much higher this year than last year. So things are moving, alhamdulillah, in the right direction.
Well, let's talk about the summit itself. You opened the summit. You're the first keynote speaker. And I actually found your presentation, which you're going to deliver the part 2 today.
Yes. No, tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
So one thing which I was quite fascinated by was a misconception that I had. And that was when we read the Seerah, we were always told to believe that Arabia was a barren land. Neither the Persians nor the Byzantines cared about it much. That this was a land which neither superpowers were much interested about or cared about. But you offered an alternative perspective, which was, in fact, Arabia was very important to the global trade route. Please elaborate a bit on that.
Yes, this is a general misconception by not only the masses, but even the scholars.
Why?
There are parts of the Seerah that are not are in the general books of Seerah, but they are in research very related to Seerah. And many scholars look at Seerah as a story, but they do not look like us when we do strategic planning at the context, at the political and social and economical situation in and around Arabia. So I showed the audience that there was a huge problem with a major trade route in the whole world, which is the Silk Road between China and Europe. It's a long story, but in short, the Persians had a war with the Romans, so they cut the Silk Road. The Romans tried to go around this by creating a marine road by sea from China to India to Arabia, and they would settle in Aden, Yemen, and then the Roman ships would come from the Red Sea and take the goods back to Europe. But when the Persians occupied Yemen, they cut that route too. So that was a disaster for Europe. And Abdul Manaf, the great-grandfather of the Prophet ﷺ, created a land road between Yemen and Gaza. And then from Gaza, the Roman ships take it to Europe. And with that, Mecca became very prosperous. As a matter of fact, some say the richest city in the world. So,
Mecca.
yes. So many people think of Mecca as a Bedouin city.
Yes.
They were never Bedouin.
But this has been told by mashayikh,
Yes,
ulama.
but they don't know. But see, to be a Bedouin, see, we are in Kuwait, 30% sea people, 70% Bedouin.
Subhanallah.
Before the oil, Bedouin were sheep herders, and they moved from one place to another according to the grass. While we, because we work in the sea, trade in the sea, and so on, we're settled. So we are not Bedouin. We are Arabs, but we are not Bedouin. Bedouins move from one place to another. So Mecca was settled, and it became, because of this land, Silk Road, it became the center of trade in the whole world.
The whole world.
The whole world. Because all the trade of the world would move through Mecca. Mm-hmm. And that made them very, very, very rich. And I described to the audience how rich they were. So many people have the wrong impression about Mecca. Even the movie, the famous movie Al-Risala, does not depict that in the correct way.
The message.
Yeah, the message does not depict the situation of Mecca, how rich they were, in the correct way. So anyway, so that's how they were. And there's another very important information that I have not mentioned in the lecture, but I will mention in part 2. What was the major trade in the Middle East at that time? From China, and the major trade was silk. From India, the major trade was peppers. But what was the major trade in Arabia and around Arabia? It was slaves.
Slaves?
Slaves.
From Habashi slaves?
Al-Habashi, yes.
Okay.
They call them Al-Habashi because they come, most of them, from Africa.
Okay.
So not all of Africa is Habasha. Habasha is Ethiopia.
Yes.
But the Arabs don't know as anything. So, for example, when the Arabs say Rome or Roman, and even in the Islamic books, Roman, does not mean from Rome. It means European.
Okay.
So anyone from Europe, they call them Roman. Anyone from Africa, they call them Habashi, Ethiopian. So about 3/4 of the trade was slaves.
Wow.
So that is why, by the way, that is why Islam decided to abolish slavery gradually. Otherwise, the whole economy will collapse.
It would have disrupted the ecosystem.
Not only that, there will be poverty and there will be wars. And we saw what happened in the Civil War in America. Mm-hmm. So Islam was in the direction of abolishing slavery, but Muslims did not abide by the laws of Islam, by the way. So that's another story. But thus Mecca became the center of trade, and they were protected because they protected the gods of the Arabs who were in Mecca. So nobody else could move in Arabia unprotected except the Meccans. That's why you see, so for example, in the Battle of Badr, it was all around the caravan of Abu Sufyan.
Yes.
If you go and read any book of Sirah, you'll see the caravan had 1,200 camels. Mm-hmm. Just imagine how much that will carry.
Huge.
And it was accompanied by 40 men. How could 40 men
guard 2,000 camels?
I mean, yes, they can handle the feeding and the drinking of themselves and the camels and so on, but can they defend it?
No.
No way.
No.
But why did they move with only 40?
Because they could.
Because they were the only Arab tribe that was protected. So that made them the highest in richness in Arabia and around Arabia. So so it was a route of trade, major trade, the major trade in the whole world. And that's, many people don't know this, but Abdul Muttalib, when he was leading Mecca, he was receiving delegates from Kisra and Herakl, from the Romans and the Persians, because of he is in charge of arranging the routes of trade. So to them, this is very important. So that is the situation of Mecca. So it was very civilized. Um, I gave some details there. But what is civilization? I mean, you're settled in one place, you enjoy luxury and so on. They were more than that. I mean, it is said that Abdullah ibn Jud'an, one of the rich people in Mecca, had a chef from Rome, and a chef from Persia, and a chef from Yemen, and a chef for sweets.
Wow.
Who would today have just a chef of sweets, except five-star hotels?
And you said that they'd have their dresses would be 20 feet long.
Yes,
And they'd have slaves who'd
It's 20 meters.
20 meters. Wow.
20 meters. They would drag them behind them because they had, this is silly, they had a competition to show how rich they are. So that was a custom. The richer the person, the longer the dress.
SubhanAllah.
So it reached 20 meters. And that's why this is why the Prophet ﷺ said, don't drag your clothes behind you.
Is your thobe above your feet?
So this is silly to talk about 5 centimeters. Wallahi, this is silly. They don't understand Islam. They don't understand history. The Prophet ﷺ, the hadith says, يَجُرُّ ثَوْبَهُ خُيَلًا. They drag with arrogance. So this is the 7 hadiths that are exactly the same words. They drag them behind them. So that was the custom. So there are many things, but in short, yes, it was a center of civilization.
The second slide of your presentation, it was about strategic thinking and strategic planning.
Yes.
And the second slide was the prophetic project to establish a state.
Yes.
Was the establishment of a state by the Prophet ﷺ a means or an end?
That is a question that I always get when I teach planning. And let's say we have a company and we want to improve the skills of our employees. So we put an objective that says train 200 employees on 5 computer skills in 9 months. Is that a goal or a mean?
I would say it's a means to get somewhere.
For the training department, it is a goal.
Okay.
For the executives, it's a means.
Okay. Interesting. Yes.
So any statement that you put is always a goal and a mean. Both at the same time. For those who are in charge of executing it, it's a goal. For those who are on top, it's a means. So yes, a state is a goal, but it is not an end goal. It's a means for something higher, and that is to build an Islamic civilization.
Can there be a civilization without a state?
Yes. What is a civilization? So I wrote 6 books on that.
Mashallah.
Okay.
Only 6?
Yeah. So let's see. I try always to simplify things to our audience.
Please do.
What is a civilization? Okay, because I see many people talking about civilizations. So it's a long story, but let me, for the sake of answering your question, I have to define civilization.
For sure.
I have defined civilization as a system of thinking that leads to mental and physical productions.
Okay.
That's a simple statement. So let's take the mental and physical productions. What are they? Productions here could be roads, universities, media, fancy clothes. These are all material. Now, mental could be anything mental or artistic. So here we're talking about arts and music and so on. So putting them together, this is not civilization. And this is where many people go wrong. This production, it is not civilization. It is the product of civilization. There are cities or countries in the Arab world. They have the highest buildings, the latest technologies. They have the best roads, internet, fancy festivals. Is that civilization?
No,
No.
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 They've taken it from another civilization.
Exactly,
actually. Yeah.
exactly. I mean, give me some money.
Yeah, give me some money and I'll build like you.
I'll build higher than them, bigger than them, more beautiful than them, etc. But that is not civilization. They go wrong because they have not established a thinking system, a way to think. Now let's reverse the whole picture. Let's see Islam and Medina and Muslims at the death of the Prophet ﷺ. Any fancy buildings?
No.
Any fancy roads? Any huge universities or arts that are very creative? Nothing.
Simple and austere.
Nothing, almost. Okay. So why do we consider this the establishment of the Islamic civilization? Because he left behind the way of thought, thinking system. Now, if you have the thinking system, it's very easy to produce. Now, the other way, it is easy to produce without a thinking system, but it is not cohesive.
For sure.
And it is not lasting. And it is not effective. It's enjoyable, but I mean, people live in luxury. I'll give you a small story.
Please do.
A small story that's current. My son is a friend of another gentleman who lives in a dictatorship. And in that dictatorship, they have a lot of money. So they built the highest buildings and they have that latest technologies and luxuries and so on, high salaries. So they had a discussion in the internet. So my son, because of the dictatorship and what they're doing to imprison people without court and so on, he criticized them. His friend answered him and he said, we have the best of this and the best of that and the best of technology and best roads and so. So my son answered with one sentence: animals in a farm are comfortable.
What a great analogy. 5 words. Subhanallah.
This is the truth about it. Okay, so yes, it can be done, that you can build a civilization without a state. And I'll give you an example from Islamic history.
And you can have a state without a civilization.
Yes.
And we have many of those
Yes,
in the Muslim world.
both ways, yes.
Yeah.
For a civilization without a state. See, I've written the Encyclopedia of Islamic History. So I've written a book about the Umayyads. I've written 2 books about the Abbasids. And at the end of the Umayyads, there was a huge struggle between the Umayyads and the Abbasids. And that affected the state for several decades, before the Umayyads fell and after. Took time for the transition. At that time, it was the highest level of our civilization.
Mm-hmm.
There was no state. There was who is in control, nobody knows, not yet. And it took time to actually for the Abbasids to have control. But at that time, we had Abu Hanifa, the Shafi'i, we have the great scholars of language and the greatest of astronomy and math. What is civilization? That is civilization. Huh? So yes, why do I say that? What is civilization? See, when in my definition of civilization, I never mentioned state.
Interesting.
I said a system of thinking and production. Did they have a system of thinking?
Yes.
Yes. Did they have production?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
The best in the world.
So the way we have a drawing that we have done is that you draw a graph. If politics is stable and people are participating, things go up. If there is struggles and dictatorships, we go down. So in Islam, we see the system going up. Let's take that point. Between the Abbasids and the Umayyads, it is abruptly going down.
Sheikh, can I just counter relevantly?
Yes.
What would you say to those who would counter by saying that, okay, there might have been friction and contention between the two warring dynasties, but the structure of the state was there. The very foundations of a state was there, irrespective of the feuds and the transition.
That is true. But did that have an effect on production?
No,
See, that's how you look at civilization.
that's true.
Yeah, the state had no effect on the production. Who produced? The people. So what I was saying about the graph is the state at that moment was going down. At the same time, while the state was going down, we have another graph of how much production do we have, and we see it going up. The highest was at the time when that was going down.
This is true.
So in Islam, it's different, by the way. Who builds the Islamic civilization? The people. Who funds the Islamic civilization? Al-Awqaf, not the state.
SubhanAllah.
If you go to almost all production, what is the end result of civilization? Production.
Yes.
Mental and physical. If you go back to that, and we are very proud of how people helped each other, how people were generous, how people built masjids and built madrasas and so on. Who did that? It was the people, not the state. And it was done by awqaf money. Now when the state controlled the awqaf and the state controlled licensing people to produce, then people could not think of a civilization without a state.
At what point did the mission to establish a state for the Prophet ﷺ went from strategic thinking to strategic planning? So, for example, when he met the various tribes seeking protection during the Hajj period, was that strategic planning? I'm assuming. When did strategic thinking become strategic planning for the Prophet ﷺ for this mission?
First of all, we have to define terms. So for our audience, what is the difference between strategic thinking and strategic planning? Strategic thinking is to have the process of thinking, meaning that I am thinking of, like your questions, what are we doing? What is the end result? What is my predictions? How do we feel in relation to this issue? What is our vision? So general things. The problem with the strategic thinking, which in my book on strategic planning, I start the half of the book on what is strategic thinking and what are the models. And then I move to strategic planning and I show that there's a huge difference. Strategic planning is structured. It has steps. Strategic thinking, until now at least, there are no steps. There have been suggestions.
Ideas.
Suggestions for steps.
Okay.
They are very general. If I want to teach you strategic planning, I tell you exactly what to do and what's next and how to do it, etc., and how to formulate it and how to measure it. So this is what I do when I write strategic plans. And I've written, alhamdulillah, more than 70 strategic plans. Now, for strategic thinking, I tried to apply it, I could not. Because it was very vague, very general. There has been one attempt to structure strategic thinking, in the scientific literatures, and it's proven that it's a failure. So, if you are still in the general ideas, visions, not formulated visions. Formulated visions and missions are in the strategic planning. But generally speaking about where do you want to go, what is your goal, what are your values, how do you see your relation with other, general. So that is called strategic thinking. If we want to apply it to Islam, I would say the Meccan period was more strategic thinking. Mm-hmm. The Medina was more structured. So if you are asking me, what is the point?
When is the point?
And this is not only my answer, by the way. This is in the literature. Huh? It's hijrah. It is agreed upon that it is hijrah. Hijrah changed everything. Not only strategic thinking to strategic planning. Suddenly, we are starting a state, not only as values. What in Mecca? What happened? Faith and values. So that took a long time, 13 years, which is very important because our civilization and state both are built on faith and values. So you need to instill this deeply before you go into the structure. The structure didn't take time. The whole structure, internal and external, didn't take time. 10 years only. So that is how I see hijrah. Hijrah changed the Quran itself. And that's why you see in the books of tafsir and other, you see Al-Quran al-Makki, Al-Quran al-Madani. And there are clear differences between a verse that is in Mecca or Medina. I mean, for those who are learned, we don't need somebody to tell us this is from Mecca or from Medina. It is from the language itself. We can tell it's Mecca from Medina. Not only if it includes rules or what. No. Just from the language we can tell that this is Medina. It's very clear distinction. In Mecca, the verses are very short. In Medina, they are very long. That is another discussion. Why? In Mecca, you are sending messages about values, about faith. In Medina, you are making rules and the exceptions of the rules and the exception of the exception and so on. So they have to be long.
So Juz Amma was mainly
Makkah. Yes. Juz Amma is Meccan. How many rules are in Juz Amma?
None.
Okay. While, let me point to something that is in Juz Makkah, in Juz Amma. Many people ask me, and some young men and women asked me this, said, the Prophet ﷺ did not think about establishing a state until he had the chance to. So it is circumstances. And some people are even more aggressive and say, when he found that he can grab power, then he started to think about a state. No, that is not true. He was establishing a civilization. And that was from day one.
From day one.
From day one, and including a state.
Brothers and sisters and friends, I see that you're enjoying the content. How come you've not clicked subscribe to the 5 Pillars YouTube channel? And if you're watching via Rumble, how come you've not subscribed on our Rumble channel? If you like the content, you like the guests, you like what we're talking about, it's absolutely inexcusable and cheeky for you not to click subscribe. Thank you and Jazakallah khair.
So was it an end or a means, Sheikh?
Again, we go to the same question that we started with. Is it a means or a goal?
Because this is a debate among Islamic movements.
No, there is no need for debate. It's both.
It's both.
It's both.
At the same time.
Even our civilization itself is not a goal. It's a means for higher objectives. If you want, we can.
What's the higher objective?
3 higher objectives.
Bismillah.
Tawheed,
Sah.
justice,
Yes.
and mercy for all mankind, not only for Muslims. That is the end game for this life. But all of this is also a means for something higher.
For the hereafter.
And that is the happiness of humans in this life and in the hereafter. Islam came for the happiness of human beings in this life and the hereafter. وَلَوْ أَنَّ أَهْلَ الْقُرَىٰ آمَنُوا وَاتَّقَوْا. If the people in the villages or cities just believed and had taqwa, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them the happiness of this life and the hereafter. So everything is a means and a goal. Back to our details about day one.
Yes.
Ask anyone. Surah Al-Muzammil. Ya ayyuha al-Muzammil. You who is covered. قم فأنذر. يا أيها المزمل قم الليل إلا قليلا. There are two verses that are related to the very beginning of Islam. Of course, we know all that the first verses were Iqra. Okay. Among the first verses were Al-Muddathir, which is covered, and then Muzammil, which is tightly covered. So both relate to the same story. The Prophet ﷺ, when he came from Hira, he went to the house of Khadija, very shaken. He went to his bed, covered himself. She comforted him. So we all know this is early, not only Meccan, very early in Mecca. I like our readers to go back and read Surah Al-Muzammil and read the last verse of Surah Al-Muzammil. What does it say? علم أن سيكون منكم مرضى. There will be among you who will be sick. وآخرون يضربون في الأرض يبتغون من فضل الله. Those who travel for sake of trade. وآخرون يقاتلون في سبيل الله. And there will be others who will fight for the sake of Allah. He did not say jihad. He said fight. Because jihad can be interpreted as jihadun nafs. You make jihad with your own self. But qatal cannot be interpreted that way.
It's just fighting.
Fighting.
Yep.
And that is in Al-Muzammil. So it's very clear that it was from day one. Later on, the Prophet ﷺ met with Bani Shayban, one of the strongest tribes in Arabia. And he, in Hajj, talked to them about Islam. They were very wise. So they consulted among themselves and then met with him again. And they said, we accept. Now this is the strongest tribe. And they were the allies of the Persians. So they said, we will accept Islam. And we will take you to our lands. And we will fight with you. Anyone in the world. Except the Persians. Because we are allies of Persia. By the way, Al-Muthanna ibn Haritha al-Shaybani was in that meeting. Yes. Al-Muthanna became one of the leaders of Islam that conquered Persia later on. Sahih. But late. He could have accepted Islam. This is before Al-Ansar. Huh?
Yes.
This is before Medina.
Yep.
The Prophet ﷺ refused.
He did?
Yeah, he refused. He said, no. Those who want to support me from all sides. What does that mean? This is a man alone in Mecca. By the way, at that time he had only 70 followers. So 70 only. And he wants to challenge the Persians. That is planned. It is not something that came gradual. When Islam became strong, then they started to think about attacking Persia. It was even before they had a state. It was there. So many people have these misconceptions of the Islamic plan was set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to build a civilization for the happiness of mankind.
Jazakallah khair. Sheikh,
I'm not Sheikh.
I knew you were going to do that. Sheikh, by seniority at least.
No, I'm still young.
Unless you're younger than 37.
I'm still young.
Alhamdulillah, bless you and preserve you. Let's bring it back now perhaps to the modern time.
Yes.
Right? What are your thoughts on the nation state? And can the nation state be incorporated as part of an Islamic civilization? Because a common argument is, for example, Wa'il Halak and others will say, the nation state by its very epistemology is in opposition to Islam. And even Islamic thinkers today will say this. What's your thoughts on the nation state?
Let's again define the nation state for our audience.
Bismillah.
Okay, because many people use these terms and they don't know exactly what it means. A nation state is a state built around a nation. Simple. What does that mean? That this is a state that has borders, and inside these borders, there is an ethnic group. So that is the initial definition of a nation state. Later on, with time, people included a border that incorporates not necessarily ethnicity, but a certain language.
Language, race, ethnicity, culture.
Yeah. So, and so on. So they extended it to different things. But it can be only ethnic, by the way. It can be a certain culture. It can be certain language, and so on. So that's what's the other side? The other side is an international state,
Transnational.
counternational, etc. Call it whatever. What does that mean? It means a state that is not built around a nation, meaning around an ethnicity or a certain language or a certain culture, which is what happened in the Islamic civilization. Muslims, the Khilafah and the Umayyads and the Abbasids did not have one language or one nation, one ethnicity. So they were not a nation state. So with time, when we became fragmented, so now we see many countries built around a nation or a language and so on. So that is something that was not in our history, but with time it happened. Now, between the Khilafah and today, during even the Abbasids and the Umayyads, there were splits.
Princely states.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they were built around a group, for example.
The Buyids, the Ghaznavids, Seljuks.
In my book of the Abbasids, I counted 30.
Yes. But the fact that they gave bay'ah, does that not make any kind of difference?
Most of them did not give bay'ah.
Really?
Yes. Especially the states that were in Western Africa. They never gave bay'ah.
So what was Imam al-Mawardi's work all about, Al-Ahkam al-Sultaniyya, that he stipulated just a few nominal things that they would have to do to be constituted as part of the wider body, even though they were actually autonomous?
Again, it's a difference of opinion among scholars, Al-Mawardi, Al-Juwayni, and others. I don't agree with that.
Okay.
Because I've written the details. They fought against Al-Abbasis.
And they could have taken Baghdad if they wanted to.
Yeah, they fought. Yeah. Well, what is the value of nominal things? The highest is fighting. And they did that. So again, but not only in the West, by the way, also in the East.
True,
many of them. And some of them were very close to the capital, like what happened in Turkey and in Syria and around. So this is early on in our, until say about after Harun al-Rashid, then we had, and which is the golden age of the Abbasids. After that we had these splits, and that continued. Anyway, that is history, and that is the presence. Now, frankly, Dili, I don't care about all of this. No. Yeah, this is theoretical, academic. Wa'il Halaq is a great scholar, and I have huge respect with him. And I would be impolite if I even critique him, because he's a giant, and I'm just a student on this. So I'm not talking academically now.
Inshallah.
Okay, I'm talking practically. That's why I said I don't care. Whether it's a nation state or a whole one country Khilafah that transcends oceans and continents. I don't care. As long as Islam is applied, that's what the end game is. So of course, we would love to have one state that includes all the ummah. But being very blunt about it, I don't think this is possible.
Ever?
Yes, probably until the end of time.
Interesting.
And frankly, again, I don't care. I don't care about the structure.
You care about?
I care about the results. What is the value of having a state that unites us, but at the same time it's a dictatorship?
It's true.
Take Al-Umayyads and the Abbasis and the Ottoman. They all are Islamic states, in our opinion. Meaning, we say the Khilafah ended 1924, right?
Mm-hmm.
It depends on your definition of a Khilafah. If you're talking Shura, 100% Shura, it ended at the time of Muawiyah. Became a kingdom.
Yeah, it became kingship.
Yeah. So Khilafah has many elements to it. So in 1924, all the elements are gone. But at the time of Muawiyah, radiallahu anhu, part of it has gone. So we have lost Khilafah gradually, not suddenly. Now, if you give me a choice between a nation state that applies Islam correctly, including Shura and the choice of the people, or a Khilafah that transcends the whole world, but it's a dictatorship, of course I will take the nation state.
Wow. Really?
Yes, of course. I don't want to live under a dictatorship.
But what if that dictatorship collects the jizya, collects the zakah, has the sharia courts, fulfills all these goals, but the leader is a tyrant? Or
I value freedom as a sacred right. I don't want for me or anyone to live under such a person.
Even though all those components
I don't care. See, Islam came for major goals. We said 3.
Yes.
Tawheed,
Yes.
Adl,
Yes.
and mercy.
So.
Where is the justice? It's lost. See, let me go further. Many scholars, I think, have it wrong. Major scholars have it wrong. Say, the goals of Islam. Okay? And they start to describe maqasid al-sharia, which is preserve the human life, preserve the deen, preserve the
property,
sanity,
lineage,
and so on. That is absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. These are not the goals of Islam. These are the goals of Sharia. Islam does not equal Sharia. Islam is 3 things. It's faith, it's ethics, and it is Sharia. So you cannot take the goals of one part and say, this is the goal of the whole. So yes, these are very important, but this is Sharia. Sharia are laws and rules. But Islam is not only laws and rules. Islam is values and ethics and faith. What are the goals of values and ethics? What are the goals of faith itself? So I have done a full study. By the way, it's published as a series, video series and podcast series. It's called Simplifying Islam.
You podcast share?
Yes.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
Islam Simplified.
Let me ask you, bringing the podcast to a close, I have 2 final questions for you. Why then, after the end of the Khilafah and the post-colonial period, was there a resurgence of various Islamic groups of movements who we can call as revivalist groups, and they came with various ideas, but it was very much focused around the establishment of a khilafah or a state.
Let's be very clear. What is khilafah? It's a political term. That is khilafah. It came with the first Khalifa, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Khalifa is the successor. Khilafah itself is not a term that is established in the Quran or the Sunnah. When was it started? It started after the Prophet ﷺ died. And then Abu Bakr, Sayyidina Umar himself, changed it. He did not call himself Khalifa. In the beginning, they called him Khalifatul Khalifa.
He said Amir al-Mu'mineen.
So he changed it. He said that would, if somebody comes after me, they will call him Khalifatul Khalifa. That doesn't work. So he changed it from Khilafah to Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amir is Imara. It's not Khilafah. So why don't we call it Al-Imara al-Islamiyya? These are terms. Why? Changing terms, I have no problem
but
with.
Why were the groups fixated on this? The various groups that were born out of the post-colonial period?
That's our job to fix the fixation. Okay? So I'll give you a story so that people are not nervous about changing terms. You mentioned jizya. I'll give you a story. This is in Bukhari about jizya. At the time of Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab, I'm simplifying the story, it's a long story.
Not for sure.
In the time of Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab, Muslims conquered northern Arabia. Because, as you know, Muslims conquered the whole of Arabia, and then there was Ridda, and then there was, conquer of the Ridda, but there are certain parts that were not reclaimed until the time of Umar radiallahu anhu. Anyway, so at the time of Umar, a certain part of Arabia, which is very important by the way, is led by Banu Taghlib. Banu Taghlib is a huge tribe. Their army participated in Mu'tah. The army at Mu'tah, where the Muslims were 3,000, finally led by Khalid bin Walid. The Roman army was not 100% Roman. It was 50% Roman. The other 50 were Banu Taghlib, who are Arabs, but Christian Arabs. Anyway, so they are very strong, 100,000. And they lost. And Muslims conquered their land. So they have to pay jizya. They refused. They said, we will not pay jizya. Jizya is for non-Arabs. This is their conception. And it is a humiliation for an Arab to be treated like a non-Arab, which is racist. But this is, they have not became Muslim. They became Muslims later on. And they refused. We will not pay jizya. We are willing to pay zakah. They are not Muslims. And they want to pay zakah. Umar refused. He said, Muslims pay zakah because it's a worship. You cannot pay zakah, you are not Muslims. And we cannot impose our religion on you. So they declared war. They were going to go to war again because of this issue. So one of the companions, the Tabi'in, his name is Nu'man, came to Sayyidina Umar, said, let me handle this. Said, okay, go. So he went to Banu Taghlib. And then he came back. He said, I made a deal with them. They will pay jizya. Exactly the amount of jizya. But we will call it zakah.
It's a terminology issue then.
Yeah. So Umar was surprised. Said, did they agree to this? He said, yes. He said, these are stupid people. Wallah, ulaika hamqa. They refused the name and accepted the essence. So he accepted. And they paid jizya, but it was never called jizya for them. It was always called, And this is in Bukhari. Huh? What does that mean? Please don't be fixated on a term. Sayyidina Umar changed zakah. He made non-Muslims pay zakah. So today, if I am leading, la samahallah, God forbid, a nation, I will not call it zakah or jizya. I will call it tax. Now, the intention of a Muslim should be it's zakah. For those who are non-Muslims, I don't care about their intention. They will call it zakah, they call it jizya. For us, it's tax. And we end the whole discrimination and issues and first national, second national. Come on, don't play these games. Just change the term. Sayyidina Umar changed the term. So we call it khilafah, we call it dawla, state, we call it imara. I don't care.
So as long as the greater objectives.
The greater objectives is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, establish justice, be merciful to all people, not only Muslims, and apply Sharia correctly.
What would your final advice be to Islamic thinkers who focus on civilizational revival? What would your concluding advice be to those who see themselves as part of this wider movement?
I cannot advise them. They are our teachers, they are our scholars. We learn from them. And I am very pleased, frankly, with the differences that I see among them.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
See, I have seen civilizations, I've studied civilizations. Civilizations flourish with the clash of ideas. They die if people have one idea.
True.
So keep discussing, keep differing with each other, but do it with respect. And have the clear intention to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and your ummah.
Dr. Tareq Al-Suwaidan, it was an absolute honor having you on. Inshallah ta'ala, we can do a more extended part 2 when Allah permits. Jazakumullah.
Barakallah feek, and good wishes and dua for you and your audience and your great work in 5 pillars.
Jazakallah khair. Ameen. Brothers, sisters, friends, I hope you all thoroughly enjoyed this podcast as much as I did. Do remember you can find this show on all the major audio platforms. And if you're tuning in via YouTube, don't be cheeky. Do remember to click subscribe to the 5 Pillars YouTube channel. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.